Okay, so anyway, took that call, and so let's see, where was I? I was talking about. Oh yeah, just putting it out there. I believe that's what I was talking about, and you know, I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. I mean, I was really sad. But the thing about it is, I don't quite, I'm not sure how it goes with me, but I think I grieve really fast. Either that, or I just feel little to no connection to my family. It's either one of those. I'm not sure which one it is. I mean, it could potentially be either one, I guess. I mean, I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure which one it is. But I mean, honestly, I wasn't close to my brother at all. And I stopped caring about my family a long time ago. I mean, it's just too painful, too much pain, too much disappointment, too much frustration, too much abuse, too much. You just, you know, it's like a nerve that gets deadened. After a while, you're just dead. You're just like, whatever. You just don't care anymore. You know? But I mean, still, he was my brother, and he was a nice guy. He was a really nice guy. It's a little bit of an overstatement, but not much. He was always nice, almost always nice to me. Almost. He was. The caveat on that is that when he wasn't nice to me, it was pretty substantial, pretty significant types of situations. You know, it wasn't trivial, like, stuff. So, sadly, it kind of puts a pall or a chill on the whole situation. Very sadly. But for the most part, he was just I don't know. I mean, that's the other thing. When things get complicated, you just tend to walk away. Oh, this is too complicated. It's just like, I don't know if it's good, I don't know if it's bad, I'm not sure. It's just really complicated, so, you know, you just kind of like, I don't know. And, but I mean, I did grieve for the loss of my brother. It was extraordinarily sad. I didn't really grieve for the loss of my brother. I grieved for the fact that he was apparently suffering so badly, and I had literally no idea. Literally no idea. None whatsoever. You know? That's the thing that I grieved for. And it wasn't the fact that I had no idea, it was the fact that he was suffering. That's the thing that I grieved for. Because my philosophy is, you know, that there are evil men in the world, you know, Adolf Hitler, Ted Bundy. But when you're dying, when you are defanged, so to speak, when you're no longer a threat, then as far as I'm concerned, you become a human being, you know? And so any human being I have compassion for, you know? So even though I may not have been close to my brother, even though I may not have, you know, may have had some issues with him, the main issue, honestly, was that conversation wasn't possible, you know? I mean, that's really the main issue. If conversation had been possible, then I think I would have been close to him. But, you know, when you politely say to somebody, I have a problem with this issue or that issue, and they just respond with F-bombs, it's kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how to handle a situation like that, personally. You know? I don't know. I don't know how to deal. I don't know how to have a conversation with somebody under those circumstances. You know? I guess what I want to say is, I don't know how to have a conversation with somebody. Well, yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, but I don't know how to have a conversation with somebody when they're just intent on telling me how it is. You know, that's, you know, I think a conversation is somebody saying, you know, this is what I think. And then you have the opportunity to say what you think, and then they can say what you think. Even if the words are hard, you know? You can go back and forth with hard words. I mean, to me, that's a conversation. It might be combative. It might be difficult. But it's a conversation. But when somebody's just like pointing their finger down at you, you know, from a position above you, even if they're not really above you, they're just talking down to you because they're assuming a position above you. How do you have a conversation in that? I don't, you know, like I said, maybe if I was a more skilled conversationalist, a more skilled something or the other, I would be able to have a conversation. I don't know how. Under any circumstance, I don't know how. You know? You know, if somebody says to me, you're a such and so and a low down, no good, rotten, such and so, and then they stop talking, well, I know how to have a conversation with a person under those circumstances. I can say, well, why do you think that? And then they answer my question. Well, because you're a such and you know, it's like, okay, well, all right. Tell me a little bit more about why you think that. You know? Or, you know, okay, so that's your opinion of me. I got that. I got it. I'm not going to forget. You don't have to repeat it. I get it. All right, now I'm going to tell you my opinion of you. Is that okay? You know? Or I just tell them my opinion. You know, at least there's some back and forth there. There's like a conversation. Even if you're yelling at each other, at least you're doing so from the same plane, the same conversational plane. Like, you're a such and such so and so. Okay, well, you're a so and so such and such. You know, but when it's like this is how it is. I'm telling you, we're gonna do that. You know, I'm not saying my brother talks like that, but I'm just saying stereotypically in my experience, for me, that's what people sound like. You know, when they talk down to you, because I was raised in the South, and that's just what I hear in my mind's eye, my mind's ear, I guess you'd say. That's just what I hear. You know. So, I just, you know, there was no conversation possible. So, how can you feel close to somebody like that? You know? It's impossible. So, I was just sad for the fact that he was suffering. I don't want anybody to suffer. I don't care how much I dislike them. You know? I don't care. And this thing keeps falling. I don't care, how mean they are to me. I don't. If you're mean to me, it doesn't mean I want you to suffer. You know, I want you to apologize so I can have the opportunity to say I forgive you. You know, I'm not saying I will, but at least I have that opportunity. You know, if you never apologize, you know, then I can't say I forgive you. I mean, you know, that's the catch to forgiveness that I don't think anybody that I've never met anybody who understands. And the catch is, if you're going to forgive somebody, they have to be willing to admit. I've got to fix this thing. This keeps falling. If you're going to forgive somebody, they have to admit. Oh yeah, that needed to be tightened a lot. They have to be willing to admit that they did something wrong. Okay? And that's a huge thing in some situations. And that's a huge thing with some people. Some people will go to, would rather be dismembered than to admit that they did something wrong. Okay? Some people, obviously there are certain situations where people disagree about whether they did something wrong. Some people say, you did something wrong, well, I disagree. Well, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a personality trait. I'm not talking about a sincere disagreement about circumstances. So, and then to really dive deep into this whole forgiveness issue, people will say, no, they don't have to do anything in order for you to forgive them. Well, it becomes semantics at that point. It's like, well, because here's what in my opinion, here's what I hear. On my side, I can do everything that I can do to forgive someone without their cooperation. And I agree with that completely. But the catch to that is, try to forgive somebody who refuses to admit that they did anything wrong. That is not received very well. That's received as an insult, So even though you've done everything you can on your side, and you hold no grudge, and you harbor no ill feelings, ill will, no ill will for that person, okay? And even though you're free of that weight and of the negativity and the anger and the resentment, even though you're 100% free, okay, that's not, like I said, it's semantical. Forgiveness has not occurred because the other party has not accepted the forgiveness, because the other party refuses to admit that they did something wrong, right? So, forgiveness has not actually occurred. You've done everything you can, okay? And you get credit, for lack of a better word. You get credit and you enjoy the benefits of that. But don't say that forgiveness has occurred, because forgiveness is a two-party transaction, and both parties have to participate, otherwise forgiveness doesn't occur. And like I said, it's semantical. And somebody finally comes to terms with the fact that they did something wrong, and they say, I'm sorry, or will you forgive me, even, which is even more rare than I'm sorry, but I'm sorry kind of means the same thing. I'm sorry. If they say, I'm sorry, you can say, well, it's okay, I forgave you 20 years ago. Okay, so like I said, it's semantical, right? Yeah, that is true. You did, but what I think at a technical level, I think my opinion is, when you really go down to the level of the nuts and bolts of it all, is that you didn't forgive them. You did what you could to forgive them, but in order for them to actually be forgiven, they had to participate in the transaction, voluntarily, volitionally, right? So I kind of lost my train of thought here, but I don't know. It was sad that he was suffering that much, and I had literally no idea. I mean, I found out that my brother was upset that nobody came to his son's wedding out in California. And, my brother was my best man at my wedding. I found out, and I didn't have the money, but, and if I had the money, I don't know if I would go, because we just weren't that close, I mean, I don't know. Nobody else in the family went. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I heard through the grapevine that he was upset that nobody was coming, so I I don't know how I got the money, but I scraped the money together, and I went out. I didn't go because I wanted to go to a wedding. I went because I heard that my brother was upset, And I don't know if it made him feel better or not. I have no idea. But I don't know. And then something happened, and I told him I wasn't happy about it, and he just F-bombed me up one side, down the other, which is fine. You can F-bomb me. I don't care. I don't care about F-bombs. But then you say something to the effect of, and this is the way it's going to be, and that's the way it's going to go, in like a really authoritative tone. It's kind of like, okay, well, I don't really know where to go from here. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and challenge your fake authority. Because if you're convinced that you can talk down to me like that, I don't think I'm going to be able to pull you down from your imaginary, crystal cathedral, And I'm not sure I want to even try. I mean, I just don't know what to do with the situation. It's not that I don't like you. It's not that I'm angry at you. It's just I don't know what to do here. What am I supposed to do? Argue with you about your crystal cathedral? I mean, I don't know. That's way up in the sky. That allows you to talk down to me like that. I don't know. I mean, so that's basically the last conversation I had with my brother. I mean, after he F-bombed me and told me how it was, I think we just hung up the phone. I'm pretty sure I said okay or something like that. We hung up the phone, And then the next thing you know, now see, here's the thing. The thing that I was upset with him about was something that he did that impacted my kids, my son to be specific. And I don't know what my family's problem is, but they have literally zero respect for the fact that I have a family of my own and I'm a father, and that I have a right to have some say over how their actions and attitudes and words and deeds and decisions affect my family. I mean, they have literally zero respect. Literally. I mean, literally. I mean, they don't even talk to me. They just call my kids and tell them to give me messages. It's like, I mean, I just don't, it's the most bizarre, dysfunctional, weird situation I've ever seen in my life. I've never heard of a situation like this. I've never seen it. I've never heard of it. It's just weird, I mean, my sister calls my 20-something son in the middle of the night to tell him that his uncle committed suicide and please tell your dad, when his uncle is my brother. I mean, what is that? I mean, that's like Maury Povich. I mean, I don't even know what it is. I don't know how to characterize it. I don't know. I just don't know what it is. But, I was upset with my brother because something he did impacted my kids. And then my sister's turned around. So this whole thing with my brother has been like, this bucket of grief, if you will, has been tainted with this bizarre, continuing, what is it? I don't even know what it is. I know that it infuriates me. I mean, I know that it confuses me. But I don't exactly know what it is. So I mean, when I heard about this, I was devastated. It was like 12:30 at night. I heard from my son. I heard about this, and I didn't know what to do. I said, I have to go somewhere. I had to go to West Palm Beach and visit my sister, or Jacksonville, or South Carolina. I have to go. And I said, well, none of that makes any sense. So I have to go. So I just started driving around, and I just started calling my kids. And I was not about in a million years, never, ever in a million years would I tell somebody like this over the phone, especially my kids. Now my one son was traveling on business, so I had no choice. I had to tell him. And he was very kind to me. And it was the middle of the night, but he spent like an hour on the phone with me, talking to me and praying with me. And like I said, I had no choice, you know. I mean, they don't know much about my siblings, too much anyway. And either, I mean, they don't have any special bond or anything like that. But there's a caveat on that. I have to put an asterisk on that, so I'll come back to that. But so he was very kind, and I was calling my other kids, or texting them anyway, because I don't call anybody, I just text. I was calling my other kids and saying, can I meet with you? I have to tell you something. And of course, the one son already knew, so I didn't have to meet with him, because he's the one that my sister called. And it's not really her fault that she called him in the middle of the night, because he was out of town. But he told me that she was trying to reach him all day long. And I mean, it's not, I don't know. Anyway, so he called me in the middle of the night. He was on an international flight, and as soon as he got home, he called me. And and I was upset, because he gets home in the middle of the night from an international trip. He has to go to work early the next day. He tells me on the phone he can't spend much time with me because he has to get up early. And I'm like, why is my son getting this message in the middle of the night when he has to go to work the next day? It's just, like I said, I don't know what this is all about. I really don't know. It's just bizarre. But trust me, among the bizarre things about my family, it's like the least bizarre. I mean, this is like, nothing compared to the other stuff. But, so I obviously didn't have to tell him, but I tried to get my other, and nobody wanted to meet me in the middle of the night, which is fine, So I had breakfast with my son and his wife the next morning and broke the news to them. And I was trying to set up a time to meet with my daughter so I could tell her, but she has a family and a business and kids. I mean, she was extremely busy, so I couldn't meet with her until 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So I met with her, and as soon as I saw her, she's like, oh, your sister, she refers to my sister as her aunt. She says, Aunt so-and-so called and told me what happened. I'm like, I'm just like, this is unbelievable. What in the world is going on here? I mean, like I said, I have virtually no feelings whatsoever for my family. I mean, my feelings are basically dead for my family. I mean, I love my cousins 1,000 times more in terms of the degree of emotion that I feel than I do my siblings. I mean, because just, stuff like this. And it's not really the stuff so much, even though the stuff is pretty substantial. This type of thing is pretty substantial, But really, at the end of the day, it's the fact that there's no conversation possible. Like I said, it's the same thing. It's like a theme. They just talk down to you from their elevated crystal cathedrals with an absolute, unequivocal, undeniable tone of this is how it is, and just take your orders and be quiet, basically, or take your So, like I said, it's not like a grudge, it's not like bitterness, it's not like resentment, although there is all that. I will confess that there is all that. But that's not what this is. This is, conversation is not possible under those terms. I mean, who wants to have a conversation with someone when they're forcing you to have the conversation from the position of a slave, or the position of an underling, or the position of I mean, how can a free person, who's not a slave, have a conversation under those terms? I mean, do slaves have conversations with their masters? I don't think they generally, stereotypically, by and large, they don't, right? I mean, slaves don't have conversations with a slave. You tell your slave what to do, and they do it. I mean, so, like I say, I'm just re-emphasizing the fact that conversation is impossible. And so, it's just incredible. It's just incredible. And I really haven't even got to the part of the stuff that I want to talk about. So, and I'm home now, and Shannon's expecting me, so I need to go. If you watch this and you have any feelings at all for me as a human being, I'll be very grateful, because honestly, at the risk of sounding dramatic, I have lived a tortured life. That's true. I have lived a tortured life. Not anymore, because God knows, to say those words to people like my sisters, that's like red meat to them. I mean, they're just looking for reasons and open doors to walk through where they can lock somebody up and get somebody committed and drugged, and so they can play the Munchausen full spectrum domination, create a crisis and then be the savior that rides in on the white horses to solve the crisis. That whole sort of evil, just control freak, dysfunctional, demented dynamic, And, don't forget the characteristic of a Munchausen's syndrome sufferer is that to everybody and anybody on the outside, they look perfect, they look wonderful, they look happy, they look caring, they look compassionate, they look like a pillar of the community. They look like, when I was about, I'm going to just estimate and say somewhere around 40, I think, maybe it was 45, I started to figure out how the women in my family are in terms of having a mental picture. But it's more than a picture. It's more like a animation, or more like a theatrical vignette in terms of being a metaphor or an allegory, however you want to look at it. And this is how it goes. And I believe with all my heart that this is a true depiction. And it's not their fault, because I don't deal in fault. To me, fault is the ultimate F word. I mean, if you really want to be serious about fault, and you really want to be sincere about pursuing fault and finding out who's at fault, then eventually you're gonna end up back at Adam and Eve. I mean, that's just the way fault is. I mean, and that's God's honest truth as far as I'm concerned. So it has nothing to do with fault, and it's not their fault, But so I'm not this is not like hate spew. This is just fact speak, as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so to me, this is the way it is. They have a piece of blueberry pie in their right hand and a glistening, sharp stiletto in the other, and they're perfectly dressed, perfectly